This isn't going to be me trying to sell any particular fixed blade, or any knife in particular. It's basically going to give you a set of attributes that the knife has for whatever the purpose is that you want the knife for. So you'll be able to look at the attributes and the properties of that blade, and then you'll be able to go online or wherever it is and look at the knives and decide from what that knife has to offer which one you should get for whatever it is that you want to use it for. And you'll know what I mean here in a second. So get right into it. It's going to be a tabletop video. Let's take a look at some fixed blades and talk about the different kinds of things that you need to look for. Alright, so here are just a few compact fixed blades, and the only reason that these are on the table is to show you what attributes it is that I'm talking about. So first you have to decide what you want this blade to do. Do you want this blade for EDC? And if you do want it for EDC, you've got to think about what you do every day, the stuff you're going to be cutting, how hard you're going to use the knife. Do you use it as a pry bar, strictly for cutting? You got to think about all those things. You got to think of how you want to carry it. Do you want it on your belt? Do you want to wear it like a neck knife? Do you want to pocket carry it? You want to carry it in your pocket? Those are all things you got to think about. Do you want to scout carry it? So these are all different carry options, sheath options. You know, do you want Kydex? Do you want leather? Do you want plastic? Do you care? All on how you want to carry it and what the use is for. Do you want to use it for carving as one of the options as one of the tasks that you do with this knife? Is it going to be for hunting or self-defense? These are all things we need to look at when you're deciding on a knife, and so on and so forth. A few of the basic things you need to take in consideration is the size of the knife, right? What are you willing to carry on you? This is probably like as big as I would consider a compact fixed blade. This is pretty much what I would. Anything bigger than this, I don't know if I'd call it compact for a fixed blade. And this is over 8 inches. This is about 8.5 inches. And I'm not willing to pocket carry anything bigger than that. So you've got the size, cutting edge length, the handle. Is the handle comfortable for you? Do you like the handle? Is it big enough? And is the blade big enough? So you got size and proportions. And then another thing you want to take in consideration is blade steel. Do you want this to be stainless? Are you not too worried about stainless? Do you want it to be easy to sharpen? Would you like it to hold an edge for a long time? Would you like it to be really tough? All those things you got to take into consideration. So I would figure out what steel is. Whatever the knife is that you're looking at, I would look up that steel, and I would make sure that the company you're buying it from is heat treating it to a proper Rockwell hardness. And then I would also make sure that its properties of the steel suit your needs. If you're going to be like around water and salt water all the time, you're probably not going to want 1095 carbon steel, or any carbon steel for that matter. If that doesn't matter to you and you like the properties that carbon steel has to offer, then pick a knife that has a carbon steel. So steel is very important. We kind of already went over sheaths. There's pocket carry, there's neck knives, and belt. You carry in all those places. I mean, there's also like boot knives, and you could put them in jacket pockets or whatever. But those are the three main ones. You've got belt carry, pocket carry, and you've got neck knives. So after you've taken the size of the knife into consideration and the proportions, the handle to blade proportion and the steel type, also weight of the knife is going to be important. If you don't want to carry something that's a certain weight, then that's something you have to take into consideration. So however much the blade weighs, with the sheath, without the sheath, that's something you're willing to carry. And a lot kind of goes with steel blade stock thickness. How thick is the blade stock? And the type of steel, the blade stock thickness, all go hand in hand with the type of grind that goes on the knife. There's different kinds of grinds, and some grinds are better at other things, better at some things than other grinds. This is a full flat grind. As you can see, this whole big bevel is just flat. That's what you'd call a bevel. It's flat, completely flat, and then it comes down to a V edge, which is your cutting edge. And the type of cutting edge is also going to be hand in hand with the blade stock thickness, the grind, the steel, all that stuff. So that's a flat grind. It just comes down and it's ground flat. And then there's Scandi grinds. Scandi grinds is where you have one bevel coming down to your cutting edge. Just one continuous bevel that comes down to a sharp cutting edge. And there's variations of this. You can put micro bevels on these and you can convex them. So there is different variations and different things you can do with the Scandi grind. These are both Scandi ground knives. And these are going to excel at wood carving. If you want your knife, whatever your compact fixed blade is that you choose, this one's got a compound grind here, we got a Scandi grind here, and then kind of like a flat grind or something on the tip. If you want this knife to be good at wood carving, go with the Scandi grind. If that's going to be one of the main things that you're doing with this compact fixed blade, nothing is going to beat a Scandinavian grind, period. Nothing can even compare to the woodworking abilities of a Scandi grind. And that's just how it is. So if that's what you want, then I would go with the Scandi. So your Scandi grinds are going to really excel at cutting wood, but they're going to lag behind in other tasks, other cutting tasks. They're not going to, doesn't mean they can't do it. As long as your knife's good and sharp, it can do whatever you want it to do, but it's not going to be as good as, say, a full flat grind is at food prep. And as well as, see, these are all Scandi grinds, but they're going to perform differently. This one has kind of a convexity to it, as to where this one is super thin. This one's way thicker. This one's going to be way, even though it's smaller, this is going to be a way more durable and tough knife. It's convexed, so your cutting edge is going to be stronger. This one does have a micro bevel on it helping it out, but this one is just so darn thin that it's just not very tough, right? So this one's just going to be a pure slicer. You could carve with this and everything. It's thinner, so it can do food prep, but it's going to be a slicer. This one can take more of a beating and will also be good at wood carving because it is a Scandi grind. And one thing I forgot to mention when talking about blade steel, hardness, the grind, and all that stuff, the blade shape is also going to be really important. If you noticed, all of these blade shapes are very, very similar. This one's a clip point. It drops a little bit, but these two are both straight pack designs. So that's something else you got to take into consideration in finding a use for your knife. Most of the time, straight back blades are going to be better at carving. Clip points are okay, but typically the ones with the straight backs that I've found are the best for the carving. And another feature that a blade can have is a fuller, and that's this divot here, this imprint, if you will, out of the blade stock right here. And that's usually for weight reduction or just looks, or sometimes it can give you some traction on the back of the blade. And then there's also swedges. So a swedge is when, from basically where your grind starts, the blade gets skinny again towards the spine. So like where this grind starts, it starts to get lose material towards the spine, creating less drag through whatever it is you're cutting through. See how it gets thinner towards the spine? The same thing on this. You've got a swedge right where the grind starts, the main bevel starts, and it gets skinnier. So we've covered the Scandies, and this one's a belt carry. I put a loop through it to net carry it. This is a Mora, it's net carry. And this one I put an ulti clip on for pocket carry. So since I got this one out, let's talk about this. This is what you would call a saber grind. So instead of being a flat grind, like this one, your grind for the bevel starts right here. You can see that line? That is the bevel. And that's what you would call a saber grind. And then the swedge is on the top. And then it comes down to your secondary bevel, which is the cutting bevel. So a V grind is what you would call that. I hope this isn't getting too confusing and all over the place. So this would be a saber grind, as well as this, and as well as this, and as well as this. Zoom in a little bit here. And there's different heights to the saber grinds. You can see where that one lies. This one's got a high saber. This one's got like a really low saber grind. And the saber grinds, depending on how high it is going to make the cutting edge thinner behind the cutting edge. The higher the saber grind and the thinner the blade stock, the thinner behind the cutting edge, the slicier it's going to be. The thicker the blade stock and the lower the grind, obviously it's going to be thicker behind the cutting edge. And what we have here is 2 drop points, and then this is a tracker knife, and then this is a worn cliff. It's got a straight edge and it comes out to a fine point like that. These are good for everyday tasks. This is a really good EDC blade shape, a good self-defense blade shape. This would be a good bird and trout knife. And this one's thin and slicey enough, it would be okay at wood carving. It's not going to be as good as a Scandi grind is, but this is a really good everyday carry knife. This is the CRKT Spew, and I think I only paid 20 bucks for this little knife, and this thing's great. This one's going to be thinner, slicier. It's got a taper to the tip. It's going to have a real fine tip. So this isn't going to be a pry bar or very tough, as to where this thing right here is literally like a sharpened pry bar. And then so this one is kind of more like your typical saber grind. And blade stock thickness, this isn't anything crazy. So this is going to be thin enough that it's slicey. It's going to cut just fine, but it's going to be reinforced with this blade stock thickness and the height of this saber grind. This is a tough knife. This knife right here is pretty much what you would want if you want an all-around knife for everyday tasks, hunting, outdoors activities, all of that stuff. It can do it all. It's not going to excel at wood carving, but it can do it. This thing's tough. This is a tough, tough knife. You can abuse this knife and you don't have to worry about anything bad happening to it. So I really, really like this knife, and it's super, super tough. This saber grind, I could say the same for this one. This knife is that knife. This one does come out to a finer tip, but this one is super tough as well. So another thing you have to take in consideration if this knife's going to be for self-defense or for hunting, and I'm going to bring it up as they come up on the knives. So this knife has a really pronounced guard here. And so that would give this thing some good self-defense properties. If you're stabbing or slashing, your hand isn't going to slip up onto the blade. You've got this guard here preventing that from happening, as to where, like this puko, has nothing there. Your hand can slip up onto the blade, no problem. Not very good for self-defense. And then the handle gets really skinny up here, so that's going to be less good for woodworking and wood carving. Not terrible, but it's going to hinder it a little bit. But you're going to get more control with this blade for, let's say, skinning game or, you know, stuff like that. So you're getting more control out of the blade, but you're losing some grip. As to where this knife right here doesn't really have a guard. I mean, it kind of has a guard, but this one is meant to lock you in a saber grip. So your fingers lock in like this. So for thrusting, you're locked in and you shouldn't slide over to the blade. And this knife was definitely designed as a self-defense tool or a tactical tool, but it just so happens that this knife is a great outdoors knife and everyday carry knife. So that's kind of where hunting knives and self-defense knives are set apart from other knives. They're usually really stabby, and they have some sort of guard or protection keeping your hand from slipping up onto the blade. And a lot of hunting knives are like that too. Now, traditionally, puukos are used for hunting, and they don't have that. They just have a neutral handle, and you could accidentally slip up onto this blade. That's just how puukos were traditionally made. So none of this stuff is like super set in stone. It's just all things to consider, right? And then there's also knives that you just think look cool. You know, you just really like the design. There's really no specific purpose for the knife, and you just want to get it because it looks cool. I got this mini tracker, not good for anything except for some light everyday carry stuff, but it looks cool. That's why I got it. This knife right here, not really excelling at anything, but it was really cool and I like the way it looks, and so I bought it. I mean, realistically, this could be like a hunting knife, if anything, but it's not good for carving or just light duty cutting, but I just thought it was cool. So, I mean, you can just literally get a knife because you like the design. Just keep all of these things in mind when you're purchasing your knife. Don't get something like this and expect it to be really good at carving. So that's basically just a quick beginner's guide to finding a compact fixed blade. I'm sure I missed something along the way there, but that's a pretty straightforward beginner introduction into at least finding one and picking one out. Leave a comment down below if I missed something or if you found this helpful, and that'll be it for this video. This is Jacob from Timberfall Craft, and I am out.